At this time, I'll call to order the City of Joliet Combined Pre-Council Council Meeting, January 21st, 2020. And the Honorable Mayor Bob Oderkirk presiding. We will start with an invocation by Pastor Vinton Ritchie of the First Christian Church at 1701 Leroy Road. Following the invocation, the pastor will lead us in the pledge as well. Pastor?
Thank you. And I want to thank you, Mayor Oderkirk and council members, for your service to Joliet. And thanks for the police department for their service to the community. I've been reading the Herald News and watching this on TV, Channel 6. And I've come to the conclusion that we need prayer and help from our Heavenly Father. So I'll be praying from Matthew, the 5th chapter. Let's bow in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, help us to realize 5 truths that we need to apply to our life. First of all, happy and blessed are those who poor in spirit. They realize they need God's help because everyone has sinned, each one of us. Second, happy and blessed are those who mourn, who are really sorry for things that they've done. Happy and blessed are the meek, not the weak, but the meek. They are humble. And you, God, are God, and we're not. Fourth, happy and blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, those who want to do what's right no matter what it costs. And fifth, happy and blessed are the merciful, who forgive others and say, I'm sorry, forgive me. And sixth, happy and blessed are those who are pure in heart, those who have right motives and are honest. And 7, happy and blessed are the peacemakers, those who are not willing to argue and fight, but instead be peacemakers. And last of all, happy and blessed are those who are persecuted, criticized, given a hard time for doing what is right and honest. Theirs will be the kingdom of heaven. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for all your perfect and good gifts that you've given unto us. And in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stuff in your pocket. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Pastor. All right, let's get to work.
We'll begin with roll call. Mayor Oderkirk.
Here.
Councilman Dickinson.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Here.
Councilman Hugg.
Here.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Mudrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
Councilman Turk.
Here.
First on the agenda this evening is a proclamation, Environmental Commission recognition. If there's anyone here from the Environmental Commission, if you could come forward, please.
You guys are gonna leave me hanging. A proclamation. Whereas the Environmental Commission was tasked with overseeing the city's search for an alternate water source and ultimately recommended a new source to the City Council. Whereas the commissioners engaged with the public, the staff during the Phase 1 and Phase 2 alternative water source study. Whereas the members of the commission attended monthly meetings and reviewed multiple technical documents over an approximately 2-year period. Whereas the commissioners volunteered their time to complete these efforts. Whereas their donated time exceeded expectations and provided for a thorough, unbiased, and transparent study process for the benefit of all City of Joliet water customers and potential regional water partners. Now, therefore, I, Robert Oderkirk, Mayor of the City of Joliet, Illinois, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize and commend the Environmental Commission for for its significant contributions to the city of Joliet on this critical project to identify a sustainable, reliable, and high-quality water source for the city and potential region. On this date, January 21st, 2020, by the Mayor, Robert Odekirk. Thank you.
Wayne, I think we already agreed to be volunteers, so they were asking if where our per diem checks were. Mayor, City Council, thank you very much. It was a long process. We, as we mentioned in the last meeting, focused on sustainability, a long-term viable option for the city of Joliet. We're glad that you took our recommendation. We believe that it is in the best interests of the city, its citizens, and quite frankly, a regional partnership for the communities that we may be able to serve in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council, I of course would be remiss if I did not remind everyone that we are still working on water conservation and we want Joliet to rethink water. Our next meeting, and for everybody out there, our next meeting is going to be this Thursday at 4 o'clock in the council conference room right here, and we have hopefully the elementary schools and the high school will be joining us for some long-term conservation efforts, along with the Conservation Foundation to work and make our some of the rebates that we have more robust. So I invite all of you to join us or to send anything you have in regards to conservation, because although we've selected a water source, we have 10 years to start reducing our water usage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Mayor Odekirk appointments.
None.
None this evening. Approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written with the following change? Vote on Council Memo 28-20 separately under consent agenda, which is the concurrence with Holston Management Corporation for selection of an architect for the redevelopment of Riverwalk Homes.
And Mayor, I'd like to add one more thing. I'd like to pull out Ansel Glink as well.
So you'd like to vote separately
Yes.
on the Ansel Glink portion of the invoices paid report?
Yes.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the agenda as written with the following change? Vote separately on Council Memo 28-20 under consent agenda and separately on the Ansel Glink portion of the invoices paid report.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon? Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is citizens to be heard on agenda items. First is Raj Sangvi regarding Council Memo 39-20.
Mayor, council members, thank you again for your time. We were before you guys a couple weeks ago. This agenda was tabled. And just to reiterate what we talked about last time and to add on to that, we purchased this property, Mayor McLean's purchased the property in October of last year. It's just been about a little under 4 months, and it's been significant work to the property. Maybe at one point under previous ownership, it could have been considered a nuisance, but we've done a lot of work. There's been 10 30-foot dumpsters that have just pulled out debris, significant landscaping that's been done. Weeds have all been taken care of, and that's just the exterior. The exterior has been all cleaned up. Interior, continue to do work on it. Thus far, I think we're just over $100,000 invested. Architects have been hired. United Architects has been retained. They were just out this week measuring for the rooms of the area that's been condemned. And we expect to have plans and permits for that area within 3 to 6 months, and work on the rooms that are open to the public is ongoing, and that will be completed shortly. So it's quite a bit of work that's been done to the property since October. I think that initial memo was issued and written in right around October, and I just don't think, and I was just out there just before I came over here, that it's any longer considered a public nuisance, and I hope that you guys see that as well too. So I just want to thank you guys all for your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Greg Smith regarding Council Memo 37-20.
My name is Greg Smith. I live at 19755 Schweitzer Road, and I'm here with representing the residents, what little residents we have left out on Schweitzer Road, and hoping that you would approve the closure of the Schweitzer Road crossing over the railroad tracks, so it would help give us a little better quality of life left out there. We're the last few residents left out on Schweitzer Road. We're just east of this Harbor Freight building coming in, so we're pretty much the last residents out there. So this would help the quality of life, take away a lot of the truck traffic, all the other traffic that runs through there, and save our mailboxes. So we'd appreciate if you vote yes to close the crossing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Beth Gannon regarding consent agenda.
Hello, Council, Mayor. I'm going to refer to a couple items I think are germane to consent agenda as well as Ansel Blank. On January 6, 2020, Carrie Lynn Kraftheffer sent an email to the city saying she had a dream that she came to City Council to give her final report, but sprinklers kept going off, so she was accused of causing the sprinklers to go off to avoid giving her report. First of all, what kind of professional sends a message like that to another professional? Second, were we billed $220 for this sophomoric letter? Third, is this a Freudian slip on Ms. Kraftheffer's part? I know you can't answer the last, but, you know, we're paying them $220 an hour, these attorneys from Ansel Blank, and she's sending something like that? I want to know if we're paying for it. While we're discussing Ansel Blank, why is Mr. Jones using his personal email address instead of his work one? I found that through a FOIA. It was redacted. It was clear that it was his personal email address, otherwise it wouldn't have been redacted. Ms. Desiderios wasn't redacted because she used her work email address, as you should. What is he trying to hide? Is it legal to use your personal email for city business instead of work email? I've put that question forth to the Illinois Attorney General today, and I've lodged a complaint and I'm waiting to hear back. Also regarding Ansel Blank, I have been looking at the invoices. I hope all of you are too. I noticed they billed the city several $100s in November for looking at social media. Why? How is looking at social media germane to what they were hired to do? This is also referring to a consent agenda item from the December 26th meeting. Ms. Gavin, you stated at that meeting you do not take money from the city to pay for health insurance. However, you neglected to share that you do collect $200 every paycheck for not taking that money. And that's clear through a FOIA with the city. That's $5,200 a year in play money for you off the taxpayers' backs. You have been collecting this money since 2014, and it adds up to $26,000 in counting. If you already have Medicare or some other form of insurance, stop taking this money. It is not ethical. It's not right. Mark Rooney, have you folks bothered to Google this man? It's clear that residents where he used to work couldn't stand him. They said he raised property taxes nearly every year. He also raised the sales tax. He was successful in reducing police, fire, and public works staffs while giving hefty raises to non-union employees.
Ms. Gayle?
Water rates went up.
I think you're beyond the consent agenda.
Okay.
These comments would be appropriate at the end of the meeting.
All right, I'll save my latter half. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Spieler.
I'll talk to her.
Good evening, everybody. Now, I hope that I'm okay where I'm speaking here on the consent agenda about the special meeting. So just let me know if anything is not applicable. So first I wanted to start out, the last time I was at City Council and I spoke about safety issues at the library, a lady came up afterwards and said that maybe some folks just weren't comfortable going downtown. While this may be true, for some people, it's not in my case. Places I attend downtown: City Hall, Rialto, Ballpark, Township, Joliet Junior College, Katrina's Max. Okay, now I'd like to talk about things that Joliet residents really need right now and what it would cost. I'm going to throw a few figures out here, and although I'm no accountant, I think I'm pretty close with my totals. To start, we need additional police officers, additional NOPT officers for all our east side and near west side neighborhoods. With the increase in crime in the last 14 months, this is desperately needed. So, you could have hired 4 new officers at $100,000 each, equaling $400,000 per year for the next 15 years. It would be $6 million, with $500,000 left over to, I don't know, maybe create some anti-gang youth school programs. We spent $6.5 million on a library for remodeling, so I'm gonna just tell you what else we could get for that kind of money. Okay, we also need single-family rental home inspectors. I came here before, along with Quinn Adamowski, asking for this. I asked at our neighborhood meeting, and Jeff Sturr, who's a very nice man, said, it's not in the budget. Well, neither was the library, but we added it in there now, didn't we? So maybe we could get this, because a lot of our single-family rental homes are being sold, or excuse me, the homes are being sold and they're being bought by Protown Properties and renting them out. The city inspects apartment buildings, duplexes, but no one is inspecting single-family rental units. So what is the result from this? Overcrowding, illegal dwelling, properties not taken care of, drugs, gang inhabitation, and no one is able to check on these homes because it's not in the budget. You could hire 2 city inspectors at approximately $75,000 a year, at $150,000 for 2, times 40 years is $6 million. Now, I looked this up. I'm way overshooting, probably including insurance and other benefits, because the average is $57,346 for an inspector. Same with police. The salary was much lower, but I put a little leeway in there. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I think that no one would have complained, or almost no one, about the $8 a year you're putting on the taxpayers' back if it was for something important like this. Not a library remodel, where a lot of people don't even go to. Who cares what it looks like inside? I'm sorry to say that, but we have other important needs going on right now. And one of them is the need for police, NOPT officers, and of course, single-family rental home inspections. Thank you.
Thank you.
Audrey Secco?
I'm going to wait for public comment.
Okay. Is there anyone that would like, else that would like to speak on an agenda item this evening? Moving on, council committee reports. First is Economic Development Committee.
Excuse me. The Economic Development Committee met here at City Hall in the Executive Conference Room on January 14th, 2020 at 5 p.m. In attendance was myself, members of the council, myself, Councilman Morris, and Councilman Dickinson. There was one item, which was the resolutions for a development agreement and parking lot and parking structure license agreement with the City Center Hospitality Incorporated, a company that's proposing turning the Barrett hardware store, adding 2 stories and turning it into a hotel downtown. There was some lengthy discussion which predominantly centered around adhering to the city's prevailing wage ordinance in order to qualify for TIF and other incentives. And it was determined that we would table it and allow the developer, the city, and other interested parties to discuss solutions to make sure they did follow all required city ordinances as they pertain to giving incentives. And we also discussed sending a contingent of city workers, of city representatives to the ICSC recon this year and decided it would be a good idea. We're not pushing necessarily for a booth, if you will, or display, but to send the Economic Development Committee with a staff member and possibly you, Mayor, if you're available. And it seemed that we were in agreement to do it as a committee, and it would be well under the 20,000 threshold, so it's not necessary, although we would also want concurrence or a vote of concurrence from the council. Not necessarily, the expenditure would be small, less than 20,000. Then we went through the standard building permit report for 2020. Well, that was only 2 weeks, so not a lot of building in 2 weeks. And that pretty much was the long and the short of our meeting. Did I miss anything, gentlemen?
I think you got it. Sorry.
That would be my report.
Finance Committee report.
Finance Committee, comprised of Councilwoman Reardon, Councilman Mudron, and myself, met at 5:30 this evening in the Executive Conference Room to review the following items. The first thing on the agenda was the approval of a grant agreement with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus for the Census 2020 Community Outreach and Education efforts. It will be a grant of $32,680 to help with the hard-to-count households to complete the census questionnaire, so that we can. There's a lot of revenues out there that hinge upon an accurate census count, and but this grant money from the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus would help out with that. The other items are all routine: monthly financial reports, personnel summary, travel expense, invoices paid. Found them all to be in order and recommend their approval.
Thank you.
Prison Committee report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Prison Committee met January 13th of 2020 at 4 p.m. In attendance were Councilwoman Reardon, Councilwoman Gavin, and myself. City staff, we had Jane Bernard, Steve Jones, Chris Regis, and members of the Prison Coalition. Also in attendance was Greg Pierbolt from the prison, or from the museum, and we had 2 representatives from 13th floor. Right now, we're gonna have Greg Pierbolt do a presentation that was given at our prison committee meeting, and then we'll also have a report given by 13th floor afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Good evening, Mayor, Council. For the last time I was here with the Hometown Award, the mayor mentioned there was interest in receiving kind of a year in review recap, what we've been doing out there. This was really our first full season, if you will, where we were able to start in March and go all the way through. So I think we learned a lot, we did a lot, so these are just kind of some relevant highlights for you. Please stop me if there's any questions or comments. So we're going to look a little bit at our attendance figures here, what we call our general tours, and then kind of our special events, one-off activities. Grain activity, I'm happy to say there is substantive grain activity happening out there, some relevant project updates, and then what we're planning to do thus far for the year ahead in 2020. So again, this season, as we know, this is relatively an outdoor experience, right, with kind of limited access to the buildings and a 16-acre campus. We're primarily outside here, so it is seasonal. First, I guess you would kind of, call these our KPIs, if I can borrow a corporate term. Our different types of tours, I think, was important to us. We've talked about doing, not only portfolios of different activities, at the prison, but making sure people want to come back. So we're kind of doing a variety of different types of tours, if you will. Certainly the most popular is going to be just our general history tour, nuts and bolts there. Approximately 5,400 ticketed people. We introduced a new type of tour this year, haunted history. We kind of dipped our feet a little bit into the paranormal side of things, and I'm sure our friends at 13th Floor will probably, be better operators than we might be with that. So we kind of just talked about, the history of maybe the prison's haunted. We're introducing the true stories, and you decide that. I think it was very well received. It was a sellout with 1,500 people. We kind of stepped those up, obviously, September, October, and we're doing them weekly or so in the earlier months of the year. So happy with how those were received. We also did a photography tour where we kind of found with the abandonedness, if you will, at the site, there was an attractiveness with photographers who didn't really want the history. They just wanted to kind of show up, walk around with their tripods, and just take pictures. So we were able to do that. We charged $50 to do that for a 4-hour session. So with that many people biting, it was pretty good. And then guard tour, we were able to enlist former guards to act as docents for us. A lot of them still around. The site closed in 2002. So, certainly many of them here and locally, and a little more of the PG-13, if you will, on those, but very popular as well. And then Red Carpet Corridor in May, which is kind of our traditional kickoff to the Route 66 season, if you will. Had a little over 100 people for kind of an open house, lower ticket scenario. So by category here, who is coming to our general tour tickets? General admission, no surprise, about half. What I'm going to highlight, I think, is a good metric for us is that 11%, that gray area to the left. Combo ticket, people doing both the prison and the museum at kind of a mutually discounted rate. I know the fear from our board, and certainly probably you as well, is we did not want the museum to do this where it would either financially or programmatically drag us down. So you figure about 11% of 7,500 is 750 people. I think the majority of them would not have otherwise come to the museum. So I think the prison is helping us to draw people to the museum as well. And the numbers are kind of underscoring that a little bit, but certainly there's still some growth there, some opportunity there. And the group ticket combo, we've partnered with a few local people. Sue Bornhofen and Jacob Henry kind of get these coach tours that are coming through, these big motor coach tours. We had a really good season with them this year, about 1,500 people thereabouts. And then also, we mentioned early on, we sold 200 tickets to a Chinese tour entity. They re-upped and got another 300 tickets. So that appears to be going well. And obviously, having, international visitors from China is, I think, a badge of honor for us as well. So now, gross receipts, what the till is telling us, just for kind of those different categories. These are revenues that are underwriting the museum operations. That is, as I told the committee, is helping us to reduce our dependency on city funds, and that is the long-term goal here. So you can kind of see, obviously our general tour is the bread and butter there. A lot of promise with the haunted tour, the guard tour. So we just concluded about a 2-hour planning meeting today at the museum where we kind of talked different ideas and doing, more of what's working. So hopefully those numbers, continue to go up. And then we have kind of our special activities, if you will, that benefit the preservation fund. If you remember, there was kind of the way the memo of understanding was structured. There was a preservation fund bucket and there was an operational fund bucket. So any kind of fundraiser or special event we do that we advertise goes back to the preservation fund. We certainly want to do that. I think we had a good year there, break-in. As we know, we were a little down from our first year, our grand opening event. So I think we more than made up for that with kind of our operational tours that we were able to do now for 6 or 7 months as opposed to 3 months last year. Night Behind Bars was a new event this year. We did it on Halloween, and if you guys remember that weekend before Halloween, it was awful. It was rainy, just terrible. It was worse than Christmas, but we worked locally with some partners. I'm remembering her name now, Leanne Hoffridge from the Rialto. Couldn't remember it that day, the committee, and Lori Carmine from By Park. So it was kind of a good partnership where we're able to go to community theater people, all of whom volunteered to kind of reenact true stories about real people at the prison. Just incredibly well received. I think Don was able to make it. A couple of you might have been able to make it, but certainly kind of something we're hoping to do, and I think will complement, a haunted attraction across the street. This is a little different than that, so they can live together, I think, and kind of is a good alternative to a haunted attraction, but it's nice having, both right there. And then Incarcerated too, you might have heard a little bit about our disc golf people who they do an event inside the walls every year. It's a low impact. I was telling the committee that I was there on a Friday. They were there kind of setting up, and I came back Monday. I'd forgotten that anyone was there. And they took all of their proceeds. I got an envelope in 2 weeks that had something just under $14,000 in that. So they're great partners. They give us all the proceeds. So obviously we're going to continue to work with them. And then we had a good year with film permits, 2 permits, $4,000. And then a little bit of bar revenue from the Chamber of Business after hours. A couple of you were at that one as well. So grant activity. We are involved with 3 grants right now. Of the 3 grants, one is sort of fair to say, a 3-pronged grant, kind of 3 separate activities for that one. So the first one was kind of early on. We worked with the Historic Preservation Office to do a condition assessment and structural analysis. The museum was asked to contribute another, I think, $8,000 or $9,000 to kind of build that out so they could do a little more work. And of course, we were happy to do that. The Marketing Partnership Program grant was just under $50,000. That was a 50-50. And then our Tourism Attraction Program grant, another 50-50 grant. We received $500,000. We've expended about a quarter or a third of that thus far. The rest of that is going to be happening this year. So on this graph here, you kind of see what we're either have reimbursed or committing to reimbursed. With the TAP grant, we are able to do in-kind donations, so those are as good as a cash match. I think we can do 25% of those, and certainly with the support we have from volunteers in the trades, we have no doubt we can make those numbers. So, I think it's important to know that, what we've done so far, we've refunded approximately $89,500 of grant contributions that we said we would partner on, and that's not like, we promise it's coming, like it's here, we've written the checks, and I think I've said this to you guys, I'll say the same when we listen, the city's been a great partner, and we want to be a good partner back, and part of that is, doing what we say we're going to do, and making the payments if we want to move forward on grants with each other. So, and then approximately another $125,000 towards that TAP grant off of our future revenues. So roughly $615,000 in grant awards received to date. I think that's a big, meaningful number, and we want to keep that going. We're actually just talking about a couple grants that have been announced or about to be announced that we feel good about. So, between this, the reimbursements, what we're getting with the trades, this is rough math, so don't quote me on it. I think about $1 we're spending, we're getting 3 back. So we are really getting bang for the buck. We're getting a lot of good ROI. And then, of course, we had just kind of some marketing. I mentioned the film permits. Ghost Adventures was out in October. They have a U.S. This floored me. 98 million people watch Ghost Adventures, right? Some in the mayor's family, if I believe that's correct. So got some fans locally here. They were incredible to work with, just total professionals, and they paid us. We got $2,000 to get ourselves in front of almost 100 million people. So. Another one was Exploring with Josh, is kind of this YouTube, social media, urbex, if you will, exploring abandoned sites. It's kind of a popular genre nowadays. And then I think Steve can attest to this too, is that, the scouts have been after us to get to the prison site. We haven't landed anything just yet, but the scouts are just as adamant about finding something and getting a production there as we would like them to be. So we think those will bear fruit in the near future. Excuse me. So finally, just our updates, where are we at? These are just kind of rounded numbers. What have we funded thus far? We did some repairing and rerouting of the gutter and the drainage system in the admin building. As some of you know, we had a partial collapse in there, and we definitely want to prevent that from happening again. So that was a good investment, and certainly our partners from Omega Plumbing, were very easy on us with the bill on that. We had an installation of a concrete pedestrian path along Collins Street. I think that was a huge goal this year that we accomplished. We were charged for materials. I would conservatively say that was about a $20,000 job that out of pocket cost us $4,500. Again, because of the generosity, our friends from Three Rivers and the trades. We did some seal coating, kind of clean the place up a little bit before the break-in. Promotional wayfinding banners, things we can keep there. So if we have different events, we have signs that say drinks and tickets, so people, across the 16-acre site can see where they're going. Historic interpretive signage, water heater installation in our visitor center, a dehumidifier, accessibility ramp. I know we have talked about, the mayor has indicated that accessibility is very important for that site, that everyone can experience it. It's in rough condition, but again, kind of going back to our friends at the trades, really have been helpful with accomplishing those goals. So certainly marketing, advertising expense, supporting our volunteers with tools and supplies. Permanent benches was a big one out there. You can imagine, we calculated it's about 1.25 miles walk to do the tour. So, that's exhausting, however old or young you are, especially in mid-July when it's 100 degrees. So those were needed, they're in place. A pretty significant amount of equipment rental, things like, lifts and tools we're renting, power washers, porta-johns, and then we did do some repair work to the HVAC system at Prison East, which has allowed some activity to happen over the winter. So I mentioned the tourism attraction grant program. The interpretive, I'm going to start from the bottom. The interpretive exhibit signage is finishing up. We have some of that ready for the break-in. That's just very high quality, museum quality signage that is also in the long run going to help us automate tours. So you don't necessarily have to do a guided tour. You can just kind of get in, look around at your own pace, and we can charge you for the privilege of doing that. Exterior lighting, we were just talking about that this morning. I think we kind of have some exciting concepts for lighting the site, and certainly, there's an aesthetic element to that, but also a security element that is that's very needed as well. So I think that's really going to make the site pop and help keep it safe. And then finally, our visitor center. If anyone has spent any length of time out there, you meet people from all over who walk up. Can I get in? Can I take a tour? We can't keep letting that money walk away. So we have to get this visitor center open, capture that revenue, capture that interest. And I think we are at about, we feel comfortable saying March 30th with an open date on that, and we're certainly really excited about that. So I'll close with just talking about some of our big events we're looking at in 2020. A local music and neighborhood-oriented event. This is going to kind of be where the break-in, I think, evolves and adapts and goes into is, kind of a celebration about what's good and local in Joliet with music and food, and the ticket price a little more approachable, accessible, family-friendly, making sure everyone can kind of get in there. With all the work that's been done at the site, it's a much better, safer experience. So I think we can open it up to families and make it a little more accessible. We're certainly going to work with our disc golf friends again. They have some plans to kind of bolster the revenue stream. This is a Quinn One Drink in the Clink, right? Craft Beer Festival on October 10th. We've had an explosion of interest. We have something like verbals from 100 breweries to be involved with that. So we see that as kind of a major fundraiser this year. I mentioned the Night Behind Bars event where we, did community theater and reenactors, and certainly we intend to do that again. Hopefully better weather. And then finally, this is one you may have just heard about, the committee. I know it was from like a page 10 Herald News article that gets like 2,500 shares, right, of course. If anyone asks, we have it all planned out. So this year with the 40th anniversary commemoration of the Blues Brothers, we're excited about that. We were really excited with the response we've gotten. I've personally been contacted by Blues Brothers reenactors from Florida, Mississippi, and Missouri. We've had a brewery in Springfield. They have an orange wit beer. They want to get up here to do it. So, as I kind of alluded to in the article, we are working with Crystal Head in hopes that we can have a title actor, there we go, attending. So we're working on that. I mean, certainly don't want to make any promises or anything until that happens, but we're hopeful we will have some high-level support for that this year. So with that, that's been a 10-minute look at a very long and I think a good year. So happy to take questions, comments, and thank you for the support. We really have had a great partner in the city on this, so thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'd just like to say thanks for all your hard work with this, and also to Quinn Adamowski and the Prison Coalition. Thank you all for that.
Likewise.
And now we have a presentation from 13th floor.
Councilman, we'll do the presentation under the resolution.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Sorry.
Greg, if I can add, thank you to you and all the, I know you're not a volunteer, but you have an army of volunteers.
Yeah.
So thanks to all of them. Steve, I know you have about 5 weeks left. Are you interested in going down to Springfield and trying to address the deal that we have with them, or do you want to wait for the next city manager?
I think we all do what needs to be done at the appropriate time, so we'll play that by ear.
Okay.
Happy to help in any way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
That's prison report.
Thanks.
Public Service Committee report.
The Public Service Committee met today at 4:30 here in the Executive Conference Room. To my right on the committee is myself, Councilwoman Gavin, and Councilman Morris. We had a pretty standard short agenda. We looked at 2 contracts, a well repair and a yearly, if you will, I guess you, right, kind of a maintenance or contract with our SCADA system, which is basically monitors our sewer and water system for problems. We had 3 items under change order to pay us missing final payments. It had to do with landscape maintenance contract, basically for City Hall. Some chemicals that needed to be purchased, and some engineering services for our ongoing water main rehabilitation program and for construction services. And under the ordinance and resolutions, of course, we approve the special services areas for the targeted areas that will get the curbs and gutter improvements as we do every year, ranging in price from $300 to $1,500 for the, homeowners and building owners, depending on whether it's owner occupied or not. Standard stuff. And really, we did look at Legacy Point and Cumberland South, getting their units 2 and 3 and 2 and 4 for Cumberland South, using developer funds, getting the improvements that are required done. The funds will be transferred to the city, and the city will oversee those, finishing up those required improvements. Other than that, that was the long and the short of it. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay, and we did have an item under the consent agenda, concurrence with Holston Management Corporation for selection of an architect for the redevelopment of the Riverwalk Homes apartment complex. There'll be a presentation here. I left the meeting at that point as I don't agree with us being involved in any way, shape, or form as a legislative body with the day-to-day operations because of what I would fear would be increased liability and, the whole firewall concept that was sold to us since 2014, that this, first ever LLC is who owns it, and we just are a shareholder in that. So I'm sure they're going to bring it forward. It's on the item later. Krista had pulled it out of the consent agenda for the council meeting, but they did make a presentation that I recused myself from because of my concerns, and I'm sure they'll make the same one for you folks. That's all we had. Thank you.
I show no other reports. Under consent agenda, approval of the minutes. It's recommended the minutes of the following meetings stand approved as recorded. The special meeting held on December 9th, 2019. Special meeting held on December 10th, 2019. Special meeting held on December 11th, 2019. Council meeting held on December 17th, 2019. The special meeting held on December 26th, 2019. The pre-council meeting held January 6th, 2020, and the council meeting held on January 7th, 2020. Invoices paid report excluding the Ansel Glink portion. It's recommended this report be received and placed on file. Council Memo 27-20, position vacancies.
I'll give you a brief summary of that because we do have 8 positions, and since we didn't have the benefit of a pre-council, I figured it would be useful. With the 8 vacant positions, we have a fire department battalion chief with that vacancy due to retirement. We have 2 new community development positions, and both of these were approved in our most recent budget, and were also funded through some of those development fee increases we had. One of those was a permit clerk position, and this position would assist in speeding up the flow of permits through the process, both interacting with residents, builders, et cetera, and then helping things get to the inspectors in a much more complete fashion. Second position within community development is a building inspector position, and clearly that is to put one more person in the field to deal with some of the inspection activity that we have. Under public utilities, we have an equipment operator position that's vacant due to retirement. We have the Community Development Department Census Engagement Coordinator, which was discussed in the finance report. Even though we're calling it an employee, it in effect is a contractual position, and it's funded through money we're receiving from the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. Last 2 positions, we have 2 patrol officers, and both of those vacancies are due to resignation.
Is there a motion to approve said consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
I need a correction to the minutes from December 26th. It says I was absent, but I was late. And I don't see that anywhere in the minutes.
Okay, we will make that correction.
Thank you. And I believe I was here for all of them, so I can approve all of those minutes. So I vote aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next will be the vote on the Ansel Glink portion of the invoices paid report. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded to approve. Councilman Hug?
No.
Councilman Morris?
No.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Is that pulling out Ansel Glink or no?
This is just the Ansel Glink portion.
No.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Motion carried, 5-3. Next is Council Memo 28-20, concurrence with Holston Management Corporation for selection of an architect for the redevelopment of the Riverwalk Homes apartment complex. It's recommended the mayor and council concur in the selection of HED as the architect for the redevelopment of Riverwalk Homes.
We have Ken Mahalik and Holston here to talk about this.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Council. I just want to give you a brief synopsis of what the council memo is about. So as you know, we partner with Holston Development for the redevelopment of the Riverwalk Homes. There's 356 units there now, and the agreement is that 179 will be demolished at some point in time. As part of that process, it'll be necessary to hire an architect to review plans and help us with the process. And so when we first started talking about this with Holston, it's something we hadn't done together, obviously. And so we worked with our purchasing department to develop an RFP that basically said what the services would be. From that, we invited 12 different architectural firms that specialize in this kind of work. The ultimate financing will come from IDA, which is the Illinois Housing Development Authority. And so you need architects who are used to working with them. And all of these firms were either firms that Holston had recommended or that Meg had recommended on the city side. And so we developed a committee of 8 of us. There were 4 from Holston. It was Peter, and all of you met Andrea Keeney, as well as myself, Kendall Jackson, Don Palisard, and Greg Ruddy from the city. The first thing that we did was had a walkthrough, and that walkthrough happened, I think it was back in September. And then the proposals were due in October. Of those proposals, I should say at the walkthrough, there were 10 firms that went through it. 6 of them actually made proposals. Those proposals were reviewed by the 8 of us, and from there we selected 3. From there we had follow-up interviews later in November in the Chicago offices of Holston and selected HED. HED is a very experienced firm in this. They haven't worked with Holston before, but I know Peter can talk in a minute that they're very experienced and have a good reputation. The fees for this type of work are generally basically set by IDA. So IDA has fees that are a percentage of construction cost. Those construction costs are within a table that's in your attachment, and their recommendations are below those fees. They were all pretty much in line, the 3 firms that we looked at. The thing in their proposal, I just want to point out, there's a few components, and we tried to make it as straightforward as we could, because this isn't, again, something that we normally work together on. It's the first time. They did have about $61,250 in fixed fees, which are basically things that they need to do up front. There's $2,500 per view of the building renderings, and there may be 3-4 of those, so that's why it's worded that way. And then there's the schematic design fee of 4.5% to 5%, and again, that's dependent upon the ultimate value of the construction project, as well as $1 per square foot for the civil engineering fees. What the architect will do is when they come in, they'll basically help us down the road develop the plan so that it's orderly, so that it works well for the city and the residents. And then also they'll help with the documents that the ultimate developer, or I shouldn't say developer, the construction company will use to make estimates that then will flow back as the percent of fees. So I don't know if I missed anything, Peter.
No,
if anything to
you
add.
covered it well, Ken.
Yes, we did the interview process, the RFP process, as Kenneth said, and we selected HED, Harley Ellis Devereaux, because they had enthusiasm, they had energy, they were very creative in their presentation, and eager to do the work much more than the other two. So I feel real confident in working with them. They're a national company, and they have had a lot of affordable housing experience. So I think we're going to be in good shape.
Marty, I have a question. Yes. I believe Councilman Hug was correct. I don't know how we expect an LLC to shield the city from liability if we're making these decisions, voting on this, hiring these people. It's clear that the city is involved in the day-to-day operation, not the LLC. Am I wrong?
No, you're correct. No, Mayor, actually, and this is all predates myself and just about all of staff here. It's actually part of the settlement agreement that the city, and I have a copy of it here. The city, the subsequent transfer of Evergreen Terrace to a single asset business organization controlled by and designated by the city. And that's the settlement agreement, and that's what it says. And then we entered, after that, we entered into an agreement essentially with Holstein, following those same terms. So that's where we are.
So I guess, well.
Can we vote on it or not?
No, well, here, and the agreement that we have with Holstein, it actually says they cannot do anything without consent of the city for an action like this.
It puts us in a difficult position because we have a fiduciary duty to the people of Joliet, which means we probably can't say what needs to be said. But I think Councilman Hug is right. I think if we do vote on this, it's just another example of how this LLC is just a myth that doesn't really exist, in my opinion. And I think it could cost us, the people of Joliet, somewhere down the road.
Mayor, may I have a suggestion? We could maybe revisit this with HUD, seeing as how they were the ones that came up with it. We have a working relationship with them.
Yeah, I don't think they could hurt. I think the issue is there's two competing interests. HUD had their interests, which were not, they weren't looking out for the taxpayers of Joliet, they were looking out for what was important to HUD. I think we have to look out for the taxpayers of Joliet, but Marty, you're correct, that's the agreement that the city signed.
They did.
Yes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So Mayor, should we table this until you checks with HUD, or what's your pleasure?
You have a recommendation, Steve or Marty?
Well, I know HUD moves about as fast as a snail.
But if you said you had a relationship with
We
them,
can,
correct?
we can, I know the Midwest director for many, many years, and I can give him a phone call and just explain the concern of the city and see if he has any suggestions.
That would help, I think.
Then I'd move to table this until the next council meeting, which is February, Krista?
I'm pulling it
5th?
up. Give me 1 second, I'll pull up the calendar.
4th, February 4th.
Okay, it's been motioned to table Council Memo 2820 to the February 4th council meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to table Council Memo 2820, which is concurrence with Holston Management Corporation for selection of an architect for the redevelopment of the Riverwalk Homes apartment complex to February 4th, 2020. Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
I offer no opinion on the management and operations of the privately held property known as Riverwalks, which is held by Riverwalks LLC.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Under licenses and permit applications, Council Memo 30-20, issuance of a Class D liquor license, 1606 West Jefferson Street for Beef Shack.
Mayor, Council, Council Number 30-20, a public hearing was held on December 11th at 9:30 a.m. for a request of a Class D license. The applicant is 1606 LLC, DBA Beef Shack, owner Karen Ackerman Fry. Location is 1606 West Jefferson Street. No persons appeared in opposition. There are no outstanding monies owed to the city. The building, police, and fire department have no issues. Based on the facts of the hearing, Liquor Commission is recommending approval. Next is Council Number 31-20. A public hearing was held on December 11th at 9:45 a.m. for a request of a new Class E license. The applicant is Francisco La Pupusera, DBA La Pupusera, located at 665 Collins Street. No person appeared in opposition. No outstanding monies owed to the city. The building, police, and fire departments have no issues. Based on the facts in this hearing, Liquor Commission is recommending approval. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, so the first is Council Memo 30-20, which is the issuance of a Class D liquor license for Beef Shack located at 1606 West Jefferson Street. It's
So-
recommended Beef Shack be issued a Class D liquor license.
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
How's the beef there? I haven't been there yet. How's it?
Good.
Is it good? All right, I'm good. Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Council Memo 31-20, issuance of a Class E liquor license at 665 Collins Street for La Pupusera. It's recommended a Class E liquor license be issued.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I do have a
Yes.
question. Where'd he go?
He stepped out.
Oh, well, Class E says restaurant table service only, but then when we're looking at his permit for 3120, it says restaurant or hotel.
I believe it's a restaurant.
No, I know, but I mean, it says, here it's Class E is restaurant table service only, but in the memo, it says restaurant hotel, which was concerning to me.
We could table it
I just,
if you want. He stepped out.
wow, that was quick. Can you just stay from now on? Can anybody else answer that question?
Yeah, if you want to give me a moment, I can pull it up in the code.
Before I asked the question, I thought there was, but before I spoke, I wanted to make sure I read it correctly.
It's going to take me a minute.
I thought he would stick around. for
Does
that.
the ordinance possibly address restaurant or hotel? And of course, this isn't a hotel, this is a restaurant.
Can we come back to this, Krista?
We can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just make a note. And moving on, under ordinances, Council Memo 33-20 is an ordinance adding Chapter 2, Administration, Article 9, Boards and Commissions, Section 2-260, Advisory Bodies of the City of Joliet Code of Ordinances. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Mayor?
Yes.
So a Class E is, excuse me, authorizes sale of alcohol at a restaurant or hotel, so that's why it's called that.
So it's not contradictory?
But even though our,
It just says restaurant or hotel because that's the label of Class E.
but even under our ordinances, when you come up A, B, C, D, it just says restaurant.
Oh, E actually is restaurant or hotel.
But it doesn't say that in the other part, and it's listed. Here, I'll show you. 3020, go to 3020, Class D. And when it's
In the
listed,
code?
for the first one, go to the first one. It's listed, the codes, what A, B, C, D, E are, and it just says restaurant, doesn't say restaurant, hotel. Is that a misprint? I'll show you. It's the Beef Shack one. Let me go get it. Just happens, I read
Oh, I see what
everything.
you're saying. So in their summary, it says Class E restaurant, table service only.
Yes.
But
But
in,
that's what it's showing, all the licenses, what they are. See, I read everything, so that's why I catch these things.
that's a good catch. We should probably fix that.
So what's wrong, what's correct?
Well, it should say restaurant/hotel, because that's what our code says.
Heading that's
It's the heading there.
Not the
yes.
text.
The text of the ordinance is fine. It's the summary that's, should probably be clarified.
So do we vote on that or table it?
No, I mean, it doesn't change the the liquor license type that they're getting is restaurant or hotel. But what they should probably do is, I see where you're saying in that E, they should change that to read what the code actually is.
Correct.
So is there a motion to approve Council Memo 31-20, which is the issuance of a Class E liquor license for 665 Collins Street?
Can we do that then,
You
Mark?
can do that.
Okay, then I have no problem with that. Just wanted clarification because I wanted to make sure which was correct. Because there's two different Class Es written in the memos.
I would make a motion to
For a motion.
approve for La Pupusera.
And I will second that.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
I have no problem with it, I just wanted for clarification.
Motion carried. That was for Council Memo 31-20. Moving back under ordinances to Council Memo 34-20 is an ordinance amending the 2020 annual budget for the City of Joliet and a resolution approving a grant agreement with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus for Census 2020 community outreach and education efforts. It's recommended said ordinance and resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 35-20, ordinances proposing the establishment of the 2020 Special Service Areas, numbers 1 through 3. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 36-20, an ordinance approving the final plat of Cobalt Commercial Subdivision. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 37-20 is an ordinance approving the vacation of a portion of Schweitzer Road over the Union Pacific Railroad right-of-way. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Quick question. Yes.
Mr. Smith was here this evening, and I just want to make sure, because we've had several meetings out there with these folks, that they do get the berms and the trees and everything that was promised to them. I don't see the attorneys here, though, for this tonight, so. Mike, you on board with that? Can we get you for the record, please?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Mike Hanson, on behalf of Centerpoint. We had a phone call last Friday with Brian McKiernan, Mr. Smith, and myself. Mr. Smith has agreed to all the berming, all the plans, et cetera. We've showed him two plans, et cetera, and we will comply with those plans.
Thank you, just wanted for the record.
Thank you. Yes, nothing further.
Been motioned and seconded to approve Council Memo 37-20, which is an ordinance approving the vacation of a portion of Schweitzer Road over the Union Pacific Railroad right-of-way. Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 38-20, an ordinance approving the reapproval of the preliminary planned unit development of Hiller Farm subdivision for an additional 5-year extension. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 39-20, an ordinance declaring certain properties as public nuisances.
I've asked Kendall Jackson to give us an update of the inspection activity that's happened since our last council meeting to discuss this.
Thank you. Mayor and council, this is coming back to you after a re-inspection of the property. And just to get to the bottom line here, there were a total of 220 violations that were found at the initial inspection. And as of our re-inspection, 36 of those violations have been abated. I did receive, right before the meeting, correspondence from the attorney for the property owner, Mr. Sangvi. And in his correspondence, there is a scope of service for dealing with these violations and getting the property back up to code, as well as a phasing plan. I'm just now seeing this, and I think our staff would need time to go through here to make sure that our concerns are being addressed. If it's the council's pleasure, in terms of the violations, this could be tabled for another 2 weeks, giving us time to meet with the attorney and the property owner. Our aim there would be to get them to agree to a memorandum of understanding where we could incorporate a reasonable timeline for getting these violations abated, as well as making sure that the scope of services is adequately addressing staff's concerns.
Mayor? Yes. If I can, Marty, I will make a motion. If somebody else wants to make it, that's fine too. That we actually just table it until such a time that Kendall Jackson and his staff deem it necessary to bring it back. That way, you're not under the gun, Kendall. You're working with them, right? You're negotiating with them, and if you feel you need to bring it back, then you would let the city manager know. Can we do that?
Or alternately, just remove it. I mean, you can put it on any agenda as long as there's appropriate notice.
Okay. Then I would make a motion to remove it from the agenda tonight. And, obviously giving leave to Kendall to bring it back later if he feels necessary.
Are you okay with that, Kendall?
Yes, that would satisfy us.
Motion is seconded to remove Council Memo 39-20, ordinance declaring certain properties as public nuisances from the agenda. Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
I was a little skeptical, but you guys have done a lot to clean up the outside. And, I hope you get it, done. I'll say aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
I came out to look at the place, and you guys have done quite a bit in a short period of time, so I think we want to give you an opportunity. And so I vote aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Can I ask Kendall a question? Sure. Kendall, so this still allows them to operate the rooms in the front where the violations, or do they have what they need to continue operating?
Well, I think that's part of what we need to meet about as soon as possible. I need to understand from our staff that allowing them to continue on a temporary basis is satisfactory to staff. I mean, there's life safety issues, things of that nature, and I don't want to commit to something without talking to our building official as well as our rental inspection folks.
Okay, I understand. I vote aye.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
So is it a safety hazard now if they're renting out some of these rooms? Because as I was reading it from the staff inspection, some of those areas were in quite disrepair and were dangerous. So should we take this off with no operating until things get to par, or what's your suggestion, Ken?
My suggestion is to allow them to continue to operate, but we need to meet and talk about what that looks like, how that's going to continue, how that's going to be incorporated into a memorandum of understanding. My understanding now is that those units are providing some cash flow in order to make these necessary repairs. So I wouldn't want to interrupt that, but I want to make sure that if we are allowing them to move forward on a temporary basis, that there's nothing that our staff is going to be concerned about with folks living in there.
There's no safety hazards in there?
That's
From what I read.
That's why I need to get an understanding from our staff.
Okay, so now I have a question for Marty. Marty, if we allow this to continue to operate, since there's some questions, are we gonna be held liable if there's something happens to one of the residents or folks that are staying there right now?
Certainly what would happen probably is if Kendall's staff saw that there was some sort of emergency, they'd probably red tag it. I know they've done that in their past history, so that's what would happen. In other words, if they went in and saw a violation, they'd red tag it, and that'd be the end of it.
Has it been red tagged?
To my understanding, it has not been red tagged to date, but there are some concerns
The
about.
tags weren't pulled off?
I don't believe so. Mr. Savy?
If I may, just a week after we took ownership, we did have a.
You can speak in the microphone, please.
We did have a hearing here, and there were about 4 emergent issues that had to deal with the entryways into the motel, and we fixed that following weekend. We came back and there was a sign off as to the emergency safety issues. My understanding is the inspection since then has not revealed any issues of immediate concern.
I just don't know about this. I'm very leery about
You
it.
voted aye?
I voted aye.
Oh, okay.
Motion carried. Next
I
is,
didn't vote. I asked a question.
I think we went through the vote.
Did I vote?
Yeah.
you did.
I did vote?
Yes.
Sorry.
Moving on to Council Memo 40-20, ordinances associated with Centerpoint Intermodal Center at Joliet subdivision. This includes an ordinance approving the reclassification of 14.6 acres west of Brandon Road from ITA to ITC zoning, an ordinance approving the preliminary plat of Centerpoint Intermodal Center at Joliet subdivision, an ordinance approving the final plat of Centerpoint Intermodal Center at Joliet subdivision, Phase 23, and an ordinance approving the recording plat of Centerpoint Intermodal Center at Joliet subdivision, Phase 23.
And I'll add to that, if you read this, it sounds like a regular old ho-hum subdivision happening in Centerpoint. This is to accommodate the Harbor Freight facility. Harbor Freight has been a project we've been working on for approximately 2 years. And when completed, this will be a 1,650,000 square foot addition to our industrial base in Joliet. We believe it's going to be the largest building footprint in Will County, certainly the biggest in Joliet. So don't be fooled by the technical description on the agenda. This is a pretty darn big project.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve Council Memo 40-20, ordinances associated with Centerpoint Intermodal Center at Joliet subdivision. Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye?
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Motion carried. Under resolutions, Council Memo 42-20, a resolution approving a development agreement with 13th Floor Entertainment Group.
I'll give a little bit of an intro, and we have 2 folks from 13th Floor who are here, and they're going to do a short presentation for us. As everyone knows, the city entered into an intergovernmental agreement with the state in late 2017 for both the women's prison as well as the old Joliet prison. Even though we made some attempts to get an entertainment use within the women's prison, we were unsuccessful during that first year, but we tried again. And in November of 2018, the city issued an RFP to once again look for some sort of an entertainment use, sent it to 23 firms, and we received some interesting inquiries. We had a number of haunt-type entities, along with a distillery from Tennessee. But lo and behold, the only firm that submitted a firm proposal was 13th Floor Entertainment Group. Once we identified them, started to have serious discussions, they spent about 9 months doing due diligence within the property, fire protection inspection people, environmental people, contractors, to just see what it would take to bring this facility to a level of a world-class entertainment venue. Once they decided that this was a good fit for their product and our community, our legal staff negotiated a draft agreement, which is in your packet. I'll give you a little bit of the basics. This is a 3-year lease. It may be extended per future negotiations, and one of those negotiations obviously involves the state extending the time that we have the rights to have possession of the property. Within the lease amount, in the first year is a $20,000 lease amount to the city, second year $25,000 lease amount, third year $30,000. We have a revenue sharing component that's been built into it. During the first year, there's an additional dollar per guest that's provided to the city for any amount over 10,000 participants. And then in 2021 and 2022, it goes to a flat dollar per guest, regardless of the total. They are responsible for all the interior build-out, and they have to have a work plan on all those property improvements to us by March 31st. And that'll include things like improvements to the plumbing system, HVAC, electric, windows, doors, etc. We have agreed to waive our building permit fees, and they've agreed that if all goes well, they will be open by September 1st. So with that, I'll let you hear all about 13th Floor Entertainment.
Thank you for your time tonight, Mayor, council members. My name is John Love. I'm one of the founding partners of the 13th Floor Entertainment Group, and I'm here with Brian Kopp, who works for our firm. He's a regional event manager. He oversees 2 of our events we have in the Chicago area, as well as some other events in other markets across the United States. Again, thank you for your time. We're excited about the opportunity. We think the property is pretty incredible and fits into our wheelhouse. What I'd like to do tonight over a few minutes is give you some context and background information about the 13th Floor Entertainment Group. We're a unique company, and what we do is also very unique. And then talk through what we've proposed to develop the property into an entertainment venue this year and then into 2021 and 2022. Let me see if which clicker button works. All right, there we go. So we're the world's largest Halloween-themed entertainment company. We've been in business for over 17 years. I've been promoting and producing Halloween events for most of my adult life. We have over 100 full-time employees. We do 19 events across the United States. When we're open with all of our events simultaneously, we manage over 5,000 seasonal workers. We also have some year-round operations that are entertainment concepts. I'll get into those. There's 10 year-round entertainment concepts we have throughout the United States as well. We think those can layer into this property in subsequent years. What we do is buzzworthy. We're event promoters. We believe in high production value events. We build amazing, themed, over-the-top immersive environments. That's a core tenet of our business, but another core tenet of our business is to produce very effective marketing campaigns. Press and earned media is part of that, and every year our events are covered by local, regional, and national press, and we're fortunate enough to have a pretty big spotlight on what we do during the fall, especially in the month of October. We believe that we can bring that spotlight to this property, given its unique nature. Last year in 2019, we had over 825,000 unique individuals attend our events across the United States and visit our year-round entertainment facilities. I'm really proud of that number. When I think about the environment that we live in today when it comes to the consumption of entertainment, I believe that young people especially are seeking out themed immersive experiences. They're seeking out active participation in entertainment. There is still passive participation in entertainment, but doing something like going to a high production value haunted house or a really amazing trail with your family with artistic displays, or playing through an escape game, which are all things we do, is really the environment that we live in today from an entertainment perspective. And every year that number on the slide goes up. It's happened consistently, and we're fortunate to be a pretty big producer of these types of products across the country. I'm going to take you through the 3 core things we do, although what we're proposing at doing at the property in the long run extends beyond these things into things that we have experience with. But we operate 14 of North America's largest haunted house events. We're in Chicago, we're also in Denver, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Arizona, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Texas, Jacksonville, Florida, New Orleans, Louisiana. We have a lot of experience across our platform dealing with different regulations and codes in city councils and municipalities. We look forward to working with you if we have an opportunity to move forward on this project. This gives you some visual context into what we do. On the Halloween event side of our platform, what we do is centered in the world of horror. However, I'd be the first to say what I'm not interested in doing is creating controversy and having content go too over the line. I have a 3-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter, and I would be happy to share with them what I do, and I want them to be proud of me, and my business partners and people in our firm all feel the same way. That said, we do live in the world of horror with Halloween events, but our aim is to create fun social experiences. People go to haunted house events as a group, and when we can make them smile, laugh, applause, and of course scream as they're leaving our events, we know we've done a good job. Again, to restate it, we're not in the business of having people leave offended or upset due to our content. And you can see pictures here of folks having a great time with their friends at some of our events across the country. Transitioning over to competitive game, again, there's 10 sites that we do this in. Some of these sites are standalone, and some of them coexist with the pieces of real estate that house our events. So there's 10 different storefronts that we have, if you will, divided across 2 concepts. One is a brand called the Great Room Escape, and we do escape games. And the other one is called Class Axe, and we do axe throwing. And for the benefit of the council members that maybe have never played an escape game or thrown axes, I'll briefly explain them. Escape games is you and your friends aren't really locked or trapped, but you go into a themed environment where you have to find clues and solve riddles, and in the cases of our events, interact with performers as a story is told to find your way out over a period of time, typically 30 minutes to an hour. And it really turns into a team building experience that's fun and collaborative with your group of friends. Class Axe, axe throwing, is actually an emerging sport. I watched the World Championships a few weeks back on ESPN in the morning. And it's essentially the game of bar darts, but instead of throwing darts at a dartboard, you're throwing axes at a large wooden target. We don't let people do this on their own. We have a highly trained staff of professionals that are experts in the axe throwing space that teach you and your group that might be amateurs how to do it and hit the target, and then we take you through a miniature competition and ring a bell at the end if you hit the bullseye. It's a fun time. Here are some examples of our axe throwing facilities. As we expand competitive gaming, we're actually more focused on this product than our escape room product at this time. We also, transitioning back to the event side of our business, do a very family-friendly event called Jack's Pumpkin Glow. We actually deployed a version of this event in Chicago in 2019. There's 4 of these that happen across the United States. And if you've ever walked through a trail of lights for Christmas with your children or family, this is the exact same thing, except it features 5,000 hand-carved jack-o'-lanterns. And it's not just a row of jack-o'-lanterns that have been carved. We take the jack-o'-lanterns and we create different artistic installations. It's almost a celebration of light and art in the spirit of Halloween. And these events are attended primarily by parents with young children. And again, this is an event concept I'd be happy to take the kids to. Be more appropriate for them than the haunted house. We also care about our community. When we started growing our business, myself and my business partner that's actually been running point on this project that unfortunately couldn't be here today, Chris, he's our CEO, we realized that we had a big spotlight on us during October. October is National Bullying Prevention Month, and we started a nonprofit that leverages our seasonal staff, the spotlight we have on us when we go into middle schools primarily and give really positive anti-bullying presentations. We define what bullying is, what bullying isn't. Our for-profit event businesses financially support this organization, and the end goal is to create an environment of kids feeling comfortable being an upstander and intervening, whether it be with a school administrator or a victim of bullying, to make their schools safer and the world a better place. We launched this about 10 years ago. All of our events support this organization, and to date we've visited just under 680 schools. We've done over 1,000 presentations, and we've reached 320,000 kids. It's called Don't Be a Monster, and there's actually a Frankenstein monster that's friendly that comes along with this presentation and gains a lot of awareness for this program. Jumping into what we're planning on doing here if it's approved, to Steve's point, is opening this year. About 80 to 90% of the projects we've done to date have happened in a similar time frame. We've done due diligence on the project. We're excited about it. We propose to make an initial investment of $500,000 into the project to pay for improvements to the property itself, sprinkler systems, fire alarms, things of that nature, to build the actual haunted house production, and also to look at ways we can increase the capacity of the building. Job creation at the outset, over this initial project would be 1 to 3 full-time year-round positions, supported by 120 plus seasonal positions. The seasonal positions will be recurring year after year, and we bet on success, and I would expect the full-time positions to expand as well, in line with the success of the event. Our conservative attendance projections at this time put the 2020 attendance in between 20 and 35,000 people. And again, that's based on a lot of data and data analysis we've done from other events at other properties in similar markets and circumstance. Of note, this is a very unique and ornate property. We produce an event in San Antonio, Texas, in a 110-year-old historic building. It's protected by a historic commission. We work closely with them. We've been doing that event for over a decade. And if you're familiar with San Antonio, it's near the Alamo Dome in the Sunset Station area right downtown. So this is our initial plan for 2020. And when we think about the long term, 2021, 2022, and beyond, I think there are great collaboration opportunities with Greg, the gentleman that spoke up here earlier. I think there's a lot of synergy. And we see this not just as a haunted house venue, but a full 360-degree entertainment venue. We have a lot of experience at our events running hospitality programs through there. We think there's a long-term year-round hospitality that can be run through here. We have a food and beverage component at our events that includes a bar and alcohol. We think that there's a long-term, year-round, 365-day opportunity for that. That could plug into hospitality experiences as well as serve as the seasonal fall event. And we also have experience doing events outside of our core, things we've done at singular properties like car shows and live music experiences that we think could be leveraged here at this property. With that, I'll open it up to questions if there are any.
Well, I just would like to welcome you to Joliet. Thank you for your interest. I think you guys are class act, first-class operation. And it's really, from our standpoint, from my standpoint as mayor, this had been a blighted area, blighted property for a long time. It's great to see private investment going into this. So I'm happy you're here. Steve, Marty, and I know Chris Regis, you guys all worked on this. Very good job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments?
No, I just wanted to say Chris Regis did have a lot to do with this, and I'd just like to say thank you for all his hard work with this.
And we echo that. We appreciate that as well. He worked a lot with Chris and Brad from our end on this project, and to you, Mayor, fortunately, blighted, distressed properties are great locations for what we do for housing.
We have more if you like.
Yeah, Mayor.
Yes.
I just want to welcome you to this. This will be a great addition. And with the other venue across the street, I see some synergy there that you guys could really support each other on that. So yeah.
I agree, and I believe folks from our end have been in communication, and there are some ideas percolating.
And you got a lot of courage to come in and grab the last 3 years of this until we get this thing extended. So, and your investment. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve Council Memo 42-20, which is a resolution approving a development agreement with 13th Floor Entertainment Group?
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
And while I see that 13th Floor is a nationally recognized top-notch firm, very professional, and I'm confident this is the right use for the property. It's a very good use with a professional organization like you because the appropriate committee vetted it. I would have guessed it. It makes sense. But the appropriate committee, being the prison committee, vetted the use, and they awarded it to you. So, it's almost easy to vote yes, except for some reason, we'll leave it for the imagination, the economic development or development package, as they call it, portion of it, was never vetted by the Economic Development Committee, so we have no recommendation, so I have to vote no.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Well, I'm gonna have to walk through the pumpkin patch park. It looked pretty cool because I attend all council meetings. They're pretty scary, so I'll vote aye.
Motion carried,
Thank you.
7-1. Under award of contracts, Council Memo 44-20, approve repairs to well 18D. Council Memo 45-20, approve public utilities SCADA supervisor control and data acquisition system maintenance service contract for 2020. And Council Memo 46-20, approve contracts for information technology professional services. It's recommended Council Memos 44-20 through 46-20 be approved.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hugg?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Motion carried. Under amendments, change orders and payments, Council Memo 48-20, approve change order number 1 for the 2019 sodium permanganate solution purchase. Council Memo 49-20, approve change order number 1 to the 2019-2020 landscape maintenance contract. Council Memo 50-20, approve amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement 2020 water main rehabilitation program for construction services. And Council Memo 51-20, authorization to pay iWin Verizon private network user fees. It's recommended Council Memos 48-20 through 51-20 be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hugg?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye. Jumped the gun, sorry.
Next is the city manager's
I
report.
was reading ahead.
Thank you. A couple times tonight, we talked about the position that's in the budget and relates to citizen engagement for the census. As we get closer and closer to that April 1 National Census Day, people are going to hear an awful lot about it. And I want to just explain why it's important, at least from the Joliet perspective. I mean, we'll all hear things about how the state of Illinois has lost population, we could potentially lose some congressional seats. All those things are true. And certainly within this area, Will County, Joliet, we're gaining population. So obviously, from every single person that comes to this region or this city from outside, that provides us with a little bit more political power, both at the state level as well as at the federal level. It also results in money. For those of you who were here in 2017 when we did a special census, we added about 1,900 people in that count between 2010 and 2017. The estimate is that equated to about $280,000 of additional annual money from the state in the form of income tax sharing, motor fuel tax sharing, along with use tax. At the present time, this year, the Illinois Municipal League estimates that there's about $164 per head that's distributed from the state to the city. And obviously, these numbers go up over time as people earn more money. Obviously, it goes into higher or increased pot of revenue down state and comes back to municipalities. If we lose out on the hundreds of homes we've built since 2017, and we have folks that just aren't counted, it starts to eat into what our potential is. For every dollar we get in these state shared revenues, it means there's less money that has to come from property taxes, less money has to come from fees. So there's a vested interest in people being counted. So these small investments that the state has made and the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus has made really do go a long way to help municipalities kind of maintain some of that economic base. So if you hear anybody out there, asking you what the heck's going on with the census, certainly tell them it's something that we all have a vested interest in. It relates to money coming directly to our community from Springfield and also equates to some of that political power that at times regions that are growing really do need. So we're going to inundate you and the community with census info, but it's not because we just have nothing better to do. It's because it's really important. That's the end of my report.
Steve, I have a question. Since Friday afternoon, I've been inundated, and I think other council members have too, with media requests regarding North Point and their proposed annexation. Could you give me and the council an update of where we're at with this, and then I guess some kind of roadmap of what we're going to do moving forward?
Sure. It's sort of a work in progress. This really came fast. As you all know, we had discussions with regard to the boundary agreement with Elwood, and we went through the 100-acre development petition that they put forward prior to that. I certainly wasn't expecting, and I don't think our staff was expecting, something that was going to come this quick. So we had North Point reach out to us. They attended our development team meeting about a week before they submitted the application, and they showed us basically the same plan that they had previously shown to Elwood and to Manhattan a number of years ago, the one that basically got a lot of press and, you know, had a lot of political consternation. On the Joliet side of things, what they submitted was a request for a pre-application meeting with our Plan Commission with the intent that it will eventually work its way to City Council. Our attorneys and staff are looking at that to see, okay, what's the process here? Because a pre-application is it's not an annexation. You know, I said application, pre-annexation. It's not a full annexation. It's not providing entitlements at this point. It's sort of a first step. It's a preliminary step. So we need to learn a little bit more about how that process works. But the application did go for a Plan Commission meeting, which we expect would be in February, the February Plan Commission meeting. And that assumes that there's enough information to really have a discussion. One thing our staff, and when I say staff, I mean literally all departments that are involved in this, we have many questions with regard to transportation, with regard to land use, utilities, et cetera. So, you know, I saw something in the press talking about how this is a done deal. This is far from a done deal, because I don't think we understand the project at this point to even have a intelligent discussion about it, let alone to make a recommendation. But that's what happens when plans come in, when there's a petition filed. Basically, the staff gets together, tries to find out what are the issues, what are the answers, what are the advantages, does this offer value to our community? So total work in progress. But if this thing does get on the Plan Commission agenda for February, that would be the first public hearing. And then depending upon what the Plan Commission said, what new information may be required, that would determine when and if it would come to the City Council. So work in progress is the best way to discuss this.
And just so I'm clear, what council committee are we going to send this to? Economic Development? Is that where this will eventually go?
I guess it's land use. I mean, it's a zoning type petition. So keep in mind the land use is really what we're talking about. As specific uses may be discussed, I mean, they're asking for no incentives, which that typically is how we get through economic development. It becomes the council committee that vets these things, determines that there is value to the committee, it's worth doing something in abatements or rebates or whatever. In this case, there's no request. Even though their previous plan down south had some TIF components, I think there's a whole new dynamic here. I think what they were doing is trying to provide some upfront money to help some of the debt with school districts and the community to the south. Here, you know, we're looking at it from a different perspective, and we have to get our head around this. I mean, again, we're not in a position to really talk intelligently about it. An interesting thing that happened while they came forward with us is they also came forward to the village of Manhattan. Manhattan was approached. In fact, Manhattan did a press release, which I think led to a lot of the public discussion on this. We will be meeting with the village of Manhattan to just discuss this. And when we first met with North Point, I mean, we encouraged that since there is a boundary agreement between the two towns, and since they have acquired and seek to acquire property on the Manhattan side, that we have some of these discussions jointly. So it doesn't appear that somehow the two towns are fighting over the same property or there's some disjointed approach to this. I mean, I think, you know, it's no surprise what this product is. I mean, we've had several years of watching it. Now we've been invited to the table. And I think from the perspective of the city, even though it's too fast, in my mind, for us to really kind of dig our teeth into that, we need to certainly evaluate it, because what's good for the community is good for the community. And even though it may not fit a timing that we would really appreciate or like, we have a responsibility to see if this is worth it, so.
One more question. Are we treating this as two separate projects? One, the annexation, and then two, whatever the development agreement is? Or are we kind of packaging it all as one?
We have to have that discussion internally before we, even make this filing with the Plan Commission. So that was actually a topic at our staff meeting today. And I believe tomorrow morning, our Community Development Director and our legal staff will be getting together to kind of map that path forward.
Okay.
So, work in progress.
Thank you.
Next is new business not for final action or recommendation.
I have nothing.
Yeah, we're getting close to where Mr. Jones will be leaving the city permanently. We really need to focus as a council on whoever we pick as a new city manager. We can't have a part-time, we need to get a full-time economic development director on interviewed and brought in on staff, because it's been all but dead. I think Terry and Councilman Dickinson can tell you the same thing. So let's get that up front in our minds, that we should really be looking for a permanent staff economic development director. We've gone without for almost 8 or 9 months now.
No.
Next is public comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak under public comments this evening?
Picking up where I left off, I'm going to address the search for city manager. Mark Rooney, have you folks bothered to Google this man? It's clear that residents where he previously worked could not stand him. They said he raised property taxes nearly every year. He also raised sales tax. He also reduced police, fire, and public works staffing while giving hefty raises to non-union employees. Water rates also went up. This guy should have been rejected as soon as he filled out the application for this position here. Will Jones. Will Jones has never worked in a bona fide city, let alone one that has high levels of crime and very low incomes. We have a plethora of people and issues to which he has zero experience handling. What does he know? What do we know about Glencoe and his affluent Milwaukee suburb? I know about Glencoe. I went to Northwestern University. Several of my classmates were from Glencoe. It's like being in a foreign country compared to here. Most of us here don't have live-in domestic help or chauffeured cars. He is not going to fit in here. We have real-world problems here, not problems of privilege. Did he advance as a finalist because some of you think he'll be your personal Charlie McCarthy, just like the Mortimer Snerd we got sitting over there? People are watching everything you do. We have not forgotten the tax increases. We'll continue to expose your wrongdoings every chance we get. And in closing, I'd like to read something my 8th grader wrote for you. He couldn't be here tonight. He said, putting self-righteous responsibilities in front of fiscal responsibilities is like putting the horse behind the cart, or in this case, putting the wants of the Mudron Five before the needs of the taxpayers in the city of Joliet. And in all those cases, it gets our city responsibilities in cart, but nowhere forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
I also would like to address Audrey Secco, 205 Crabapple Court. I'd also like to address the city manager's job. And it's been all over the Herald News and social media, and I have questions, and if anybody cares to answer them. Some have kind of been answered. Apparently, it's getting pretty close. When exactly are you planning on selecting the candidate? And how many times you as a whole council, in reviewing and going over these candidates, have you sat among yourselves and discussed it and decided and discussed who you wanted as a city manager and based your final 3 candidate selection on those discussions? And was it were these 3 a unanimous decision? or was it divided? And if it was divided, did you then try to compromise? And how many of the present candidates have qualifications that meet or exceed the job description you originally required, like Marty Shanahan did? How many of the final 3 candidates have successfully held a city manager's job the size of Joliet, like Marty Shanahan did? If none of your candidates meet or exceed all of these requirements, do you have a backup plan? Or hopefully it isn't just going to be you're going to hire a guy and fill the position because it's time. I don't think we should pay someone with as important of job and heavy responsibilities for on-the-job training. I want a city manager that can hit the ground running, like Marty Shanahan did. Joliet needs and deserves it, and you've spent several months supposedly looking and searching. 6 or 7 months ago, during the debate over firing Marty Shanahan, and it was an issue, I remember I was here that night. Council Gavin said she had nothing against Marty, she just wants this to be over. Well, obviously the rush to replace a city manager has gone away. And if you don't have the ideal candidate, I suggest you look for more. And I really hope you keep in mind that you're making decisions for all of us in Joliet. This is about what's best for Joliet, not just a certain few of you. I hope you aren't just picking someone to get this over with. Jones here isn't going anywhere soon, I don't think. And if he does, you always have Marty Shanahan to step in and fill the job. I hope you get it right this time. Don't let this turn into another David Hales fiasco that surrounding communities and people are still shaking their heads at, saying, what is the Joliet City Council thinking? Don't turn this into another power play. I'm asking you, please work together for the good of all of Joliet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. I just wanted to come up. My name is Madi Perez, St. Pat's area, just to follow up on the email that I sent everybody, just to remind you guys that, I am very passionate about combating the increased violence in our communities. As some of you are on my Facebook, social media, you may have seen some of the video snippets I shared of the fights going on in the junior high schools here in the area, which WJOL played. They did an article on. So again, I just hope this doesn't fall through the crack. I know we got a lot going on. I know you guys are very busy, but this is serious and it is something that needs to be done. We need a committee. We need to get together and really get involved because it's getting out of hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Next is mayor and council comments. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to clarify.
Go to the microphone, please.
It's not that I don't care what the library looks like. That probably came out very harsh. I care if the paint is peeling off or if there's something leaking or whatever. My point was just that the frivolities of it, 6.5 million on that, when we need so many other important things in Joliet right now, was just bad. I don't know if there's a way to reverse that or change the budget, but it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is mayor and council comments.
I'd just like to say thank you to our city employees for the great job that they did on the last snowstorm. Thank you.
I have nothing.
Nothing. Nope. Jan.
Just want to congratulate one of our very own, Mike Hewlett. I thought he'd be here tonight, but not. He did receive the Greeley Public Works Award, and it was also second Joliet employee to receive this award because also in 2018, our director James Trisnap received it that year. So it says here that Mike Hewlett's an outstanding engineer who advanced himself in his career from civil engineering to the roadway engineer to assist management supervision. He excels as a supervisor and manages these complex divisions adeptly. Just want to say congratulations. You hear a lot of bad things, something good, positive for change.
Thank you. Mike? I have a couple things. Number one, there was a ribbon cutting on January 10th at the Panda Express on Route 59. They're really knocking it out of the park out there. They're doing a great business. So good to see another small restaurant in our community. On January 14th, we had another I-80 Coalition meeting. Just want to let the people of Joliet know this was the committee put together by John Grueling. This is the executive committee for the I-80 Coalition. We are not done with that. Obviously, the state has allocated money for the I-80 project, but we are still moving forward and pushing to get the improvements that we need for that road. On January 16th, the Joliet Chamber of Commerce had their annual dinner. Congratulations to Mike Paone and Mary Jaworski and all the chamber staff. It was a great event. On the 18th, there was the MLK Unity Brunch that was Saturday, put on by Unity CDC. That was a great event, so thank you to the Unity CDC for putting it on, everyone involved. And then yesterday was the annual Martin Luther King Day of Service. It was at Joliet Central High School where we met. There were hundreds of volunteers, local high school kids and adults that got together. So I think it was the 15th year we've done that event, but it was another great turnout. So thank you everyone for putting that on. Finally, and I don't have the information, this is Catholic Schools Week. St. Paul has an open house, I think on Thursday, but I may have the date wrong, so I'll put that on my Facebook page. But otherwise, I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
I did not receive a request for closed session, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Motion seconded to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Hey, man, can you do me a favor?